I can do that, but a full 10,000 character script is too long for a single response. I'll provide it in parts. The ending of The Agency Season 2 brings together every major storyline that has been building throughout the season, while also leaving the door wide open for what could come next. On the surface, the finale appears to resolve the show's biggest conflicts. The mole investigation is closed, Dany survives her nightmare in Iran, Samia is finally freed, and Viking's operation suffers a devastating blow. But when we look closer, the final episode reveals that many of these victories come at an enormous cost, and some of the most important battles are only beginning. At the center of the season is Martian, whose journey becomes one of sacrifice, obsession, and redemption. Ever since the events of Season 1, his primary goal has been saving Samia. What began as a forbidden relationship during his undercover assignment evolved into something that challenged his loyalty to the CIA and forced him to make increasingly dangerous choices. Throughout Season 2, Martian repeatedly places Samia's safety above his career, his reputation, and even his own survival. The season shows just how much Samia has suffered since her imprisonment. She endures psychological pressure, physical abuse, and constant manipulation. Even after being released, she is not truly free because her family remains under the control of those who can use them against her. This creates one of the most tragic elements of the story. While Martian believes that freeing Samia will solve everything, the reality is that trauma cannot simply be erased. When Samia and Martian finally reunite, the moment is emotional, but far from a traditional happy ending. Instead of celebrating a romantic reunion, the series emphasizes how deeply both characters have changed. Samia recognizes that the people who originally fell in love no longer exist in the same way. Everything they experienced has transformed them. This makes their story feel realistic because survival does not automatically restore what was lost. At the same time, Martian is dealing with the consequences of his secret partnership with Richardson. Throughout much of the season, many people inside the CIA suspect that Martian himself has gone rogue. The evidence against him continues to grow, and his willingness to operate outside official channels only increases suspicion. However, as Martian digs deeper, he discovers something even more alarming. Richardson, the head of MI6, is not simply engaging in questionable intelligence operations. He is actively leaking information to China. This revelation changes the entire meaning of the mole storyline. Earlier in the season, Martian appears guilty because he is passing information to Richardson's network. But the truth turns out to be more complicated. Martian believed he was dealing with a rogue intelligence faction pursuing its own agenda. He never realized that Richardson's corruption extended much further. Once he understands the full scope of the betrayal, Martian turns against him. Richardson's downfall becomes one of the biggest moments of the season. His exposure confirms that the intelligence leak was real and validates many of Martian's suspicions. At the same time, it also exposes Martian's own role in the situation. He is neither completely innocent nor entirely guilty. Instead, he exists in the morally gray territory that defines many of the show's most compelling characters. His decision to eliminate Richardson ultimately stops a dangerous threat, but it does not erase the damage already done. The resolution of the mole investigation also restores Henry's reputation. Throughout the season, Henry finds himself under suspicion despite being one of the few consistently honest figures within the organization. The accusations against him create tension inside the CIA and undermine trust between colleagues. When the truth finally emerges, Henry is vindicated. This development is important because Henry represents something increasingly rare within the world of the agency. Many characters operate through deception, manipulation, and hidden agendas. Henry, by contrast, remains committed to doing the right thing even when it costs him personally. His return to active duty signals a restoration of trust within the organization, though only partially, because the CIA remains deeply scarred by everything that has happened. Meanwhile, Dany's storyline delivers some of the most intense suspense of the season. What begins as a standard undercover assignment evolves into a deadly struggle for survival. Her mission requires her to get close to Hassan, the son of one of Iran's most influential figures. Over time, she earns his trust and becomes deeply embedded in his life. The tragedy of Dany's operation is that Hassan never fully understands the dangerous forces surrounding him. He becomes entangled in espionage without truly grasping the consequences. As pressure increases, both Dany and Hassan are swept into events beyond their control. Hassan's arrest marks the collapse of everything Dany has worked toward. By the finale, Dany faces execution. The situation becomes increasingly desperate as she survives an assassination attempt and fights to stay alive while authorities close in around her. For much of the final stretch, it genuinely appears possible that she will not make it out. Her eventual rescue provides one of the season's few clear victories. Yet even this success carries emotional weight. Dany survives, but her experiences fundamentally change her. Like many characters in the agency, she learns that espionage extracts a personal cost that cannot be measured by mission success alone. The young operative who entered the season is not the same person who emerges from it. The other major conflict revolves around Viking. Unlike many antagonists, Viking is not merely a violent criminal or mercenary. He operates on a geopolitical scale, using diamond smuggling, military power, and international connections to influence events across multiple regions. His organization represents a growing threat that traditional intelligence methods struggle to contain. The CIA initially attempts to approach Viking through Owen. However, Viking quickly demonstrates how dangerous and intelligent he truly is. Rather than falling into the agency's trap, he turns the tables and sends Owen back in horrific condition, proving that he cannot be underestimated. This moment establishes Viking as one of the most formidable enemies the CIA has encountered. Recognizing the scale of the threat, Martian eventually decides to take matters into his own hands. His plan to infiltrate Viking's operation is effectively a suicide mission. By assuming the identity of a diamond smuggler, he gains access to Valhalla's inner circle. Every step of the operation carries enormous risk, because exposure would almost certainly mean death. The chess game between Martian and Viking serves as a symbolic confrontation between two master strategists. Neither man relies solely on force. Both understand patience, deception, and long-term planning. The bomb hidden inside the chess clock transforms their intellectual duel into a deadly final move. When Martian detonates the explosive, he succeeds in crippling Viking's operation. The destruction of the Valhalla base represents a major victory for the CIA and seemingly completes Martian's redemption arc. For a brief moment, it appears that he has sacrificed himself to eliminate a threat larger than any individual. The reason this moment feels like the conclusion of Martian's story is because it mirrors the journey he has taken throughout the season. He begins as a compromised operative whose decisions place him at odds with his own agency. By destroying Viking's stronghold, he appears to balance the scales through an act of self-sacrifice. The audience, along with the CIA, is led to believe that he may have died accomplishing one final mission. However, the agency saves its biggest twist for the closing moments. Instead of dying in the explosion or during his escape attempt, Martian survives. Wounded, exhausted, and isolated, he is captured by forces connected to Valhalla. The CIA loses contact with him and has no reliable way of determining whether he is alive or dead. For those back in London, the operation appears finished. The final scenes reveal a much darker reality. Martian is being held prisoner, beaten and restrained by captors who claim to know exactly who he is. This revelation changes everything because Martian's value extends far beyond his role in the attack on Viking. If his captors truly know his identity as a CIA operative, he becomes an intelligence goldmine. Every mission, contact, and secret he possesses suddenly becomes a potential target. This is why the ending feels so unsettling. Throughout the season, Martian repeatedly risked everything to save other people. He fought to rescue Samia. He worked to expose Richardson. He helped eliminate Viking's operation. Yet, after accomplishing all of those objectives, he finds himself completely alone with no clear path to freedom. The image of Martian in captivity also raises important questions about what his captors actually know. On the surface, they appear to recognize him as a CIA officer, but the scene is written in a way that leaves room for a deeper mystery. The men holding him seem unusually confident. Their comments suggest they may possess information that goes beyond his official identity. This ambiguity is likely intentional. The agency has always thrived on secrets, hidden agendas, and incomplete information. By refusing to explain exactly what Martian's captors know, the finale creates suspense that can drive an entire future season. The audience is left wondering whether Martian is simply another prisoner or whether he has stumbled into an even larger conspiracy. Another important aspect of the ending is how it reflects one of the show's central themes. Throughout both seasons, intelligence officers constantly manipulate others while believing they remain in control. Martian spends much of season 2 orchestrating events around him. He deceives allies, enemies, and even the CIA itself. Yet the finale reminds us that even the most skilled spy can become someone else's asset. In many ways, Martian's capture is the ultimate reversal. He spends the season trying to rescue prisoners and free trapped individuals. By the end, he becomes the captive. The man who once controlled operations from the shadows now faces a situation where he has virtually no control at all. The conclusion also reinforces the show's realistic approach to espionage. Traditional spy stories often end with a hero defeating the villain and returning home. The agency takes a different path. Even after major victories, the consequences continue. Every success creates new problems. Every solved mystery reveals another layer underneath. The finale embraces this philosophy by resolving several plot lines while simultaneously creating larger questions. For Samia, the ending is similarly bittersweet. She achieves freedom after enduring unimaginable suffering, but freedom does not erase the psychological scars left behind. Her relationship with Martian remains uncertain, not because they lack feelings for one another, but because they have been transformed by their experiences. The show avoids offering a fairy tale resolution and instead acknowledges that survival can sometimes be more complicated than victory. Dany's survival carries similar emotional complexity. She escapes death and returns from Iran alive, but the operation leaves lasting marks. The experiences she endured force her to confront the true cost of espionage. Earlier in her career, intelligence work may have seemed exciting or glamorous. By the end of season 2, she understands its brutal reality. Henry's position is perhaps the most stable among the major characters. His name is cleared, his integrity is validated, and he returns to active duty. Yet even Henry's success is overshadowed by uncertainty. The CIA may have resolved one internal crisis, but new threats are already emerging. Martian's disappearance alone would create a massive intelligence emergency. One of the most interesting questions raised by the finale concerns the future of Viking's network. Although Valhalla suffers a devastating blow, organizations like this rarely disappear overnight. Viking built an extensive infrastructure involving political influence, military assets, and criminal enterprises. Destroying a single base may weaken the network, but it does not necessarily eliminate it completely. This possibility suggests that the conflict introduced in Season 2 may continue evolving. Even if Viking himself is removed from the equation, the systems he helped create could remain active. In the world of intelligence, power vacuums rarely stay empty for long. Someone always steps forward to claim the resources left behind. The ending also highlights how much Martian has changed since the beginning of the series. In Season 1, he struggled to separate his professional responsibilities from his personal emotions. His feelings for Samia compromised his mission and created consequences that followed him into Season 2. By the finale, he is still driven by emotion, but his actions reveal a greater willingness to sacrifice himself for others. Whether this represents redemption depends on how viewers interpret his journey. Martian undeniably makes serious mistakes throughout the series. He lies, manipulates, and breaks rules. At the same time, many of his actions are motivated by loyalty and genuine concern for people he cares about. The finale captures this contradiction perfectly. He saves lives and destroys a dangerous enemy, yet ends up paying an enormous personal price. As for Season 3, the ending clearly positions Martian's captivity as the central storyline moving forward. The CIA will almost certainly need to determine whether he is alive, where he is being held, and how to recover him. Given everything Martian knows, leaving him in enemy hands would be catastrophic. Interestingly, there is reason to believe the writers already have a roadmap for what comes next. The agency is based on the acclaimed French espionage series, The Bureau. While the American adaptation does not follow the original show scene for scene, both series share many broad narrative elements. In The Bureau, the equivalent character is also captured at the end of a season, leading to a major rescue storyline afterward. That does not necessarily mean the agency will follow the exact same path. The adaptation has already introduced significant changes and developed its own identity. However, it does suggest that the creative team has access to source material exploring the consequences of Martian's capture. Ultimately, the ending of the Agency Season 2 is less about victory than consequence. The heroes achieve many of their objectives. Samia is free, Dany survives, Richardson is exposed, Viking's operation is shattered, Henry is vindicated. Yet none of these outcomes come without sacrifice. Every character emerges from the season carrying emotional wounds, personal losses, or uncertain futures. The final image of Martian in captivity encapsulates the entire message of the season. Intelligence work is not a game that ends when one side wins. It is an endless cycle of secrets, betrayals, and shifting alliances. Just when a mission appears complete, another begins. Martian believed he was making his final move against Viking, but instead, he found himself trapped in a new and potentially even more dangerous game. That is why the finale works so effectively. It delivers enough answers to satisfy viewers while preserving the mystery that defines great espionage storytelling. The season closes one chapter of Martian's journey, but the last moments make it clear that his story is far from over. If Season 3 arrives, it will likely begin with Martian facing his greatest challenge yet: surviving captivity while the CIA races against time to uncover who is holding him, what they know, and whether they can reach him before his secrets become weapons in the hands of his enemies.